Okay, let's talk about PiOver6. If I map out PiOver6 units along the rim of this circle, well, I know my arc length will be PiOver6, and I'm going to use the formula. Arc length is equal to theta over 360 times 2 times pi times the radius. The radius is 1. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. I'm going to multiply both sides by 360, and 6 goes into 360 60 times, so I have 60 equals 2 times theta, so theta is going to be 30 degrees. And so this is going to be a 30-degree angle. When I go to plot a point, I go over and I go up. So I create a right triangle. I know the hypotenuse is 1, and I know the side opposite 30 degrees is half the hypotenuse, so that's 1/2. And then the other side is going to be root 3 over 2. So if I am going to wrap PiOver6 units, that's going to leave me at the ordered pair, root 3 over 2 and 1/2. I am not going to worry about wrapping 2 PiOver6 because that reduces to PiOver3, and we've already talked about that. 3 PiOver6 will put me right here. 4 PiOver6 will put me right here, but that reduces to 2 PiOver3. 5 PiOver6 does not reduce to anything. And what I know about 5 PiOver6 is that it leaves me with another PiOver6 as an arc length. 6 PiOver6 would put me all the way around, but I'm stopping at 5 PiOver6. And that to plot this point, I go back, I go up. I happen to know that's a 30-degree angle, so I have the same triangle here that I had over here. So if I wrap 5 PiOver6, my rectangular coordinates are going to be negative root 3 over 2 and 1/2. And just like before, if I wrap 7 pi over 6, I'm wrapping 6 pi over 6 plus another pi over 6, which is measuring out another 30-degree angle for me. So wrapping 7 pi over 6 is going to give me the rectangular coordinates negative root 3 over 2 and negative 1/2. 8 pi over 6 reduces to 4 pi over 3, 9 pi over 6, 10 pi over 6, 11 pi over 6 brings me just shy of 12 pi over 6. So I have an arc length right here of pi over 6. So 11 pi over 6 is going to leave me with the rectangular coordinates positive root 3 over 2, because I go over and down, and negative 1/2. So in short, anytime I am wrapping a multiple of pi over 6, that does not reduce. The rectangular coordinates are going to be some form of root 3 over 2 and 1/2.